Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and a lot of trouble in Nigeria as Quartz reports. Nigeria's central bank is printing money to keep the government afloat, and alarm bells are ringing. And of course they are, because all fiat currencies eventually revert to their intrinsic value of zero. Always have, always will. The fundamentals are off the table due to the level of manipulation, so you can't put a date on it, but you know it's going to happen, and we are seeing this on a global basis. And as the article says, for a while now, economists and finance types who follow the Central Bank of Nigeria have been sounding a low-intensity alarm about the CBN's direct funding of the Nigerian government. Between December 2013 and April 2017, for instance, the CBN's claims on the federal government went from 678 billion naira to 6.5 trillion naira, $1.8 billion to $17.3 billion, an almost tenfold rise. These claims are made up of overdrafts, treasury bills, converted bonds, and other such lending. For the most part, the issue has remained an obscure one that receives hardly any attention from local media. And this is just getting worse and worse, because as the article goes on to say, but then a couple of weeks ago, the CBN finally published the personal statements of the Monetary Policy Committee MPC members from the July meeting PDF, and suddenly the alarm bells started ringing. The personal statement of Dr. Doyin Salami, a well-regarded member of the MPC, noted for his straight talking, said the CBN was providing a piggy-bank service to the federal government. Specifically, he said on page 38, perhaps the most challenging of the present characteristics of the economy in Nigeria is the adoption of quantitative easing stance by the management of the central bank. Monetary data shows a sharp rise in the extent of CBN financing of the government deficit. He quoted statistics that showed much of the rise in CBN's finance of the federal government have come since last December, with its purchases of government bonds being the worst culprit, with a 20-fold rise in 2017 alone. In effect, the CBN has been printing money to fund the government's spending. The reason for this, of course, clear: Nigeria's government has not been able to recover in any meaningful way from the collapse in oil prices that now entered its fourth year. Now, I know that's a bit long-winded, but I think the context is important when it comes to this story, because we've seen this build up on a global basis. We've been talking about it for a long time. We see inflation around the planet rising. We see government spending off the hooks, just absolute rigging by the governments, rigging by the central banking system, fiat printed out of thin air, and this build up is getting worse and worse and worse as we are pushing towards that global SDR, world digital centrally planned currency. And we'll get into that in a second. But John, can you comment on this story specifically? What exactly does this mean?
Well, it means like whatever we've talked about before about central banks doing quantitative easing, buying, government debt directly instead of, actually issuing it and then having investors buying it. It's actually a central banker buying it. The Federal Reserve has done it, Norwegian Central Bank, Canada's Central Bank. Every single central bank almost around the world are doing quantitative easing or have done some sort, or are, in the start of it, like now, look at very recently, Nigeria has just been on a massive, crazy quantitative easing, but a tenfold, going into basically most Nigerian debt. 10 times they increased the supply of different types of Nigerian debt. That's insane. That's ridiculous. And it's totally and utterly insane, this policy of believing that just buying the debt from the government and keeping on going and buying this debt, as the government, of course, in Nigeria is extremely reliant on looks like Venezuela, right, where they're quite reliant on oil royalty income, for
this oil dependency. It just keeps getting worse.
Yeah, we've been talking about these massive inflations and hyperinflations around the world the last 2 years. It's all been about oil. 90% of them, 95% of them, I would say, has been about this massive drop in oil, because why would any government, just use that? Because they don't care about taxation, because they are trying to say, oh, we're not going to force, the people, but they just are using their ability to just suck off your local resource commodity, and then they just siphon off of that instead of having a massive taxation. So it's just that, It quantifies itself like it's just getting worse and worse. And now, of course, they have one of the worst inflation rates of 16.01 currently, and that's a very, very high inflation. That's a 16% jump in prices on an average in the country.
Yeah. And I have an idea here, John, because if only like the tribes in the backwoods of Nigeria watched our videos, because a lot of them are not a big fan of black magic, and I feel like this is kind of like that voodoo black magic. Let's create currency out of thin air.
We talked about renaming the economics degree to just magic, because that's what it is. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's absolute witchcraft. It's horrible, and it of course is to the demise of the populace, because a populace in debt is a populace in servitude, and it works out so good for the government, who wants to push the people of Nigeria, just like almost every government in the world wants to do to its people. The government in Nigeria and the central banking system wants to put their public into servitude, so they get on their knees and beg for help from the government, which caused the problem in the first place. And it's just this insanity of this problem, reaction, solution, repeat, the Hegelian dialectic, and it's perpetual forever. And it's funny, because I often say, you shove someone down a bottomless pit of debt, and they are forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system. And that's exactly what's happening here, because then it puts you in perfect servitude, and that's exactly the place that the government and the banking system wants you. And they, of course, are going to step up and continue to build on this and make it worse and worse, and think, okay, well, maybe the practices we used to make it bad in the first place will help bring it back to the place that we wanted, and then makes it worse again and again and again. It just never ends. It is eternal, and it is so volatile, and it will hurt every single person and push them further into poverty. And that's why the people of Nigeria need to step up to the plate and call this out, be educated on this system, and demand an end to this and bring it back to the free market, the demand of the individual rather than the vast coercive collective.
Yeah, the definition of insanity is, doing the same thing over and over again and then expecting a different result. That's exactly what these central bankers are doing. They've been watching all these other central bankers fail on their quantitative easing policies, and then they're doing it currently in Nigeria.
And they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing. I think what's happening in Nigeria, and the central bank, as they created all this debt, is, they had the ritual under what looks like a pyramid at the top, and then suddenly that money came into existence during that ritual.
The Nigerian central bank eerily has a pyramid on the roof. I'm not going to get into all that crazy occult stuff, but I mean, it just so happens that we see this way too often, and it kind of makes you wonder.
Well, there's a lot of weird signs if you look into all that stuff, that, you look at all these central bank buildings and so on, how they build them. It's crazy stuff that's going on with the architectural stuff.
Subliminal stuff.
Yeah, it's all the subliminal stuff. But I just want to mention one last thing, which is the Nigerian Naira. And it's lost, mass amounts of value just since, mid-2015, about 2015. And in 2016, in December, as we were talking about, it really rapidly lost its value to the US dollar. If you look here, it went from 200 to, for $1 to 350. That's a massive loss in value. And of course, if you are, a Nigerian, wanting to invest in US dollars in some kind of form, you lost a massive amount of your value or currency, and locally that creates a lot of inflation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So solutions, as we always go into, is food, water, shelter, defense, so you're not gathering things for the toughest guy on the block, and of course assets, gold, silver, sound money, cryptocurrency decentralized. You can protect it from, maybe militias in the area. As I know, we talked about a lot of places in Africa and around the area.
Right? The ISIS of Nigeria.
There's a lot of present danger in the country. Of course, I know there are safe areas, but there's always that danger. So make sure that you are able to defend that, and also look for ways to, with like decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Dash and Steam and other things like that, keep it under the wraps, and be able to hold it without it being really vulnerable for to be stolen. But the point is, all of that is far safer than holding, worthless, fiat nothingness. It's going to crash. You can shove it into your mattress all you want, but it's just going to devalue, and you will use it for nothing more than maybe heating your place or wallpaper. And I don't think heating is a huge problem in Nigeria, so that's off the table.
Well, a funny thing I just want to mention was the last thing we said that it goes back to its true intrinsic value of 0. I would say it goes to its true intrinsic value of 10 quadrillion.
Yeah, 10 quadrillion. And that means absolutely nothing. Just add zeros in, forever. So absolutely. Thanks for going into this with us, John. We'll be back at you with much more. We've always got lots of stuff coming up. And I'm heading out to Vancouver, British Columbia in a few days. So I will be reporting to you from there. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth.
Be the change.
Now to sound like an auctioneer. Thanks for watching, everyone. Check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored by YouTube as they bring in the Anti-Defamation League to flag all of our content as hate speech. Also check our Bitcoin address in the description in the comments, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And don't forget to check me out at Josh Sigurdson at Steemit.com. That's Steemit.com, the future of social media, where you get paid via cryptocurrency, Steem that is, by the upvote and demand of your post. It's bound to take out the dinosaur social media, so I hope to see you there. But until next time, check out this word from our sponsor.
Are you looking to exchange a large amount of US dollars? Don't overpay with the bank on currency exchange. Think outside the bank. Banks charge unnecessary fees of up to 3%. Truth be told, currency exchange with the bank will cost you hundreds to thousands of dollars. Start saving now. Step 1. Register online. Visit our website and click Get Started. Step 2. Book a transaction. Phone us for a quote and to complete the transaction. We'll need to know which currencies you are converting and how much. Step 3. Transfer of funds. Once you confirm the transaction, we initiate an electronic funds transfer from the account that you choose. Your purchased funds are then transferred back to you in the account that you choose within 1 business day. It's that easy. Start saving hundreds of dollars on currency exchange with CBCE. Sign up online or give us a call today.